Hello everyone. For once my Skype and my chat are both busy, so we can actually get started without interruption. I am Admiral Newkirk, and this will be the cast of Game 1 of the Hsstl match set 2 between Serial Killer, the pink-ish Zerg, and konks, pardon, the dark pink Zerg. So why don't we get started? Konks is spawning in the north, while Serial Killer is spawning in the northeast. You all may remember that last week, Hinsdale Central won the High School StarCraft Team League Match Series 1 against Evanston, and this week they are playing against, I believe, the University School of Milwaukee. I'll have to check on that, and I'll post it in the description. Honestly, everyone from Hinsdale Central this week was all gloom and doom, because our best player, Dan Lee, was at prom. And then some of our better players, like Kirill and myself, were off doing other things, and so we felt like we didn't have anybody left. We had Lucas, but that seemed to be about it. However, thanks to a quick infusion by my boy Maxime, and a quick infusion by the King of Kings, Baller of Bollocks, Eric in the Serial Killer Guide, we might actually be able to do some damage here, so let's see what happens. The Hinsdale Central is missing a lot of their players, but Milwaukee appears to not be missing anyone. So let's get started. And there was a little bit of a controversy about a game that you'll hear about a little bit later, and you may actually have the first Admiral Newkirk ever live cast. And you'll see me, how I go through a game when I am seeing it as it is currently going on. So to get started, we have Zerg spawning close by air. And what this screams to me is Mutaplay, because close by air, Muta's light harass, and also Muta's kind of are really good at killing probes and force, and gave you map control as Zerg, and then if your opponent gets Hydras, you can go Banelings, and Banelings versus Hydra is extremely one-sided. And so going Mutas in ZVZ opens up a lot of options. We see Serial Killer opening with a relatively early pool. Pool Gas Expand is probably the safest Zerg build. Serial Killer is a senior, and he has a hysterical name. Get it? Serial Killer? We all get it. Konks now getting his pool, and neither of these players seem to be doing something too aggressive. A play I'd like to see here would be a proxy spine crawler. That seems to be the safest place to make, or the safest move to make in this situation. Put a proxy spine crawler there. Don't ever do what I say, people, except for get upgrades fast. Do that always. And it looks like Serial Killer is going for a perhaps a Speedling expand. Well, Konks, he's going to pressure with Zerglings. And let's see what Serial Killer gets. These positions do have one thing: they allow for the second fastest creep highway on this map. And if you kill your opponent's creep as Zerg, you're a terrible player. I'm just gonna put that out there. We see Serial Killer. Oh, let's open the production tab. Herp. I had the name tab open for once, but I didn't have the production tab. So you see both players going Speedling Expand. Konks getting his Zergling speed a little bit earlier, as well as his expansion a little bit earlier. Well, if we go to the Units tab, we will see that they're both getting 6 Zerglings, and now Light Pink, Serial Killer, is actually producing a lot more Zerglings. It looks like he's going to pressure, however, I don't think he knows that his Zergling speed is behind his opponent's considerably, which will mean that his Zerglings will be able to get into position faster, get surrounds more efficiently. However, this just supply disadvantage may end up winning the fight. We see these 16 Zerglings moving out, and we also have a Queen back here. We have no one mining gas, but a Roachborn going down, and we see no expansion for Serial Killer, which is very interesting. One base Zerg versus Zerg is generally the norm, but you also will see people go, eventually they do get their expansion. And will speed finish before the fight comes? Oh, I don't know. I do not know. Serial Killer is being very cautious here, because he knows that if he gets caught out of position, these speed Zerglings can punish, but he does have 18 Zerglings to his opponents. That is 18. I know I'm not missing that up. 18 to 16, and then there were more back home. Alright, but now he knows that his Zergling advantage is high, as well as the fact that he has speed. So he can move in and he could punish this player for not having enough Zerglings. But at the same time, Konks is getting more Zerglings. I turned off health bars. Tell me if you guys prefer them on, just because that way we can look at the pretties of the graphics more. I know that in 1v1 I always have them on because you're supposed to, but you never really get to see the game for how pretty it is. Now Serial Killer getting roaches, and he's still neglected to expand. He's on 14 drones to his opponent's 17, admittedly, not that much larger. Baneling, Zergling, Spinecrawler versus Roach Zergling. I think Baneling, Zergling, Spinecrawler wins that, because Spinecrawlers can take out the roaches, Banelings can kill the Zerglings, and then you have Zerglings just picking off the last 2 roaches and a few Zerglings left. It looks like Serial Killer may be gearing up to take an expansion. We don't actually know. The production tab tells us that no, he's making more roaches. Very interesting play here. Extremely aggressive, but only we're already 7 minutes in, and we've yet to see any actual battle take place. A second Spinecrawler here. I like that. Spinecrawlers are probably the best ground-to-ground static D in the game besides a Planetary Fortress. I don't think they exactly count just cause. Think about it. It's a Planetary Fortress. That's not exactly... It's static, but it's not exactly a turret. These are the best ground-to-ground turrets in the game. These Banelings moving into position here, that's a very clever idea, actually, to prevent a Zergling run-by. That's very smart. I like that. I like it a lot. Now, if the Serial Killer wanted to be clever, he would move his roaches around here and get the flank with the roaches, because even though flanking Zerglings are really good, flanking roaches are better. Just, Zerglings get surrounds faster, but roaches deal more damage. And, ooh, very, very good play there with the roaches. The roaches are going to block off the Banelings. Yeah. Ooh, the Banelings doing a lot of damage. They also took the brunt of the Zergling fire. I cannot actually tell who's winning this fight. I still think it's Serial Killer just because he had his roaches in position there, and the Zerglings weren't able to get him surround. And now Serial Killer is moving out with his roach Zergling ball. And let's see how many there are. There are 4 roaches and 8 Zerglings. But meanwhile, he's reinforcing with 3 more roaches and still neglecting to take an expansion. This is really ballsy play here. I think Serial Killer sort of feels like he's playing with house money and wants to get a quick win, and right now he's actually in position to do that. His opponent is only up 4 drones on him, and he is up a lot of army. He's going to go for the Spinecrawlers now. Zergling surrounds on the Spinecrawler. Meanwhile, Konks Zerglings are coming in to defend. The roaches are bringing down most of the Zerglings. Ooh, wow. Do these Zerglings have upgrades? No. There's no upgrades for either side. Baneling's morphing in, but I just don't think he'll be able to take out the Zerglings, but then he won't have enough left to take on the roaches. You need a considerable roach advantage to take on the Zerglings. But then again, he is producing 16 more Zerglings, so that should be enough to repel, I don't know, 7 roaches? Because they're not going to spawn at once, and so therefore they'll get picked off. I don't actually know. I wouldn't be reinforcing with roaches, I'd be reinforcing with Zerglings, because they let you reinforce faster. And that's kind of the point of Zerg units being quick. I'd also consider getting a lair. He's running a little bit high on minerals, and so he could use that to expand, to take a lair, really do anything. This hatchery is about to go down before these Zerglings pop even. So yeah, say in the comments, pardon, whether you'd like me to show the health bars or not. I don't think this is enough Zerglings now that these roaches have reinforced. They needed to pick off before they got there. Now just imagine had he gone 1 base Muta, dark pink, Konks. Think about the situation he'd be in. He would have map control. I think Mutas are an underused unit in ZVZ. If you could get out Mutalisks, put a Spinecrawler here, Spinecrawler there, your Queen, and a bunch of Zerglings, you'd actually be able to hold, because you could hold the ramp and nothing to get us around. And then you'd have Mutalisks out, which could come over, pick off Queens, prevent your opponent from getting enough larvae. Oh, he canceled that expansion. I don't know how I feel about that. That's a lot of Zerglings still. And he's now evened it. He is now, essentially, that investment he made for early pressure has paid off. He invested his expansion, essentially. He said, I'm going to take this expansion, I'm going to put it towards killing you. I'm going to take this 300 minerals and this larva for drones, and I'm going to put it towards killing you. And he did what he needed to do, which was killing off an expansion. But at the same time, he didn't expand as rapidly as he could. He had a superior roach number to his opponent's Zerglings, and roaches versus Zerglings is generally a roach-based fight, depending on positioning. So he should have then immediately invested that control and that damage he did back into an expansion. He shouldn't have sat there and continued to invest in defense because he had too much of an advantage there. If you've gone out and you've pushed out to kill this, you immediately need to take that advantage. You need to put it into something. You either need to tech or you need to expand. Making a bigger army doesn't play off that advantage because you don't need to go kill him to make a bigger army, because even though you have done that, the way Zerg works is there's a slight delayed response because they're such a reactive race. So therefore, it often happens if I go in with Hellions and he spots them, and I kill like 2 drones and I pull out my last Hellion, which is, by the way, always like I tend to lose 50 minerals on that. But what's happened is he has maybe 15 or 16 Zerglings that he then just throws at me, and I have a wall with a Hellion behind it, and then he can't really do anything. He has to pull back, and that damage is done. So I've taken that control I've gained and that advantage I've had, and I've come back home, and I didn't focus on building more stuff. I focused on getting an expansion up, and then I know that even though the Zerg is going to come after me, I have invested that in economizing, I haven't invested it in more army, because investing in more army just keeps you in the same place. So after you gain an advantage in this game, immediately put that advantage in either tech. For example, I know a lot of Protoss who versus Zerg, after they go out and do a sentry push, they will then, and if they do any damage, like for example, kill off this 5 drones, if you were to do that, that would be enough damage. They would then come home, they would get 2 more sentries and some zealots, and then start making a Stalker Colossus wall. And they've invested that advantage they've gained in tech. They've invested that map control in tech. Meanwhile, this Zerg is just trying to get back up. I would move, yeah, his queen's up. I would Maynard these probes, and I like this a lot. Transition into Infestor. Roach Infestor is pretty much the main Zerg mid game now. It's either Ling Bling Muta or Roach Infestor, and then Roach Hydralisk Infestor, Corruptor versus Protoss. Interestingly enough, earlier today I actually had someone go mass Hydra against me, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a Terran player, and I like to mech, and the thing is, every single one of my units hard counters Hydras. I had Marines, which counter Hydras, I had Hellions, which obliterate Hydras, I had tanks, which are meant to be the counter for Hydras, and I had Thors, which are just amazing units. And amazingly, he managed to make it viable. He used a lot of drop play, and he couldn't beat me in a straight-up fight, which he found in the mid-game, because I had better upgrades than him, and I had better unit composition against his. So what he chose to do then is he used a lot of drops, and he killed a bunch of my expansions. And eventually I did end up winning, because I just pushed to the center and sieged, and he couldn't take me in a straight-up fight, because Hydras just aren't strong enough units. They deal insane amounts of damage, and so he did kill huge, like gross amounts of my stuff, but they're not beefy enough to stand up on their own. All this time that I've been telling you about how I've played, we've seen something interesting here. It actually looks like Serial Killer has taken a considerable advantage. If we look at the units tab, he's now ahead by 4 drones. I'd like to see one of these players take a 3rd base. It's 17 minutes into the game, Zerg should have their 3rd by now. And I see also Serial Killer getting his Infestor energy upgrade. So we are going to be seeing Roach Infestor versus Roach Infestor. Let's see which player has better upgrades. This player has his 1st armor, while Serial Killer has Roach Speed. And at this point, considering you're going Roach Infestor, for the love of God, get Burrow and get Tunneling Claws. Roach Infestor, just, you need Burrow. It's so valuable. And look at this, him being proactive, Konks being proactive. I keep on wanting to say Conch, getting his own Overseer, and he's burrowing these Infestors, which is clever, so they can store up energy safely, not to be afraid of like Zergling snipes, or even if you were playing against a Terran, you burrow them to avoid Roach, or to avoid Ghost sniping. Sorry for that little pause there. Back into the game, we see Serial Killer also getting his burrow, or his detection, and he is taking his 3rd. So we're going to be seeing we're going to see more units versus upgrades. And I think you guys know which side I tend to favor. Someone annoying is pinging, but I don't think it's the same guy as last time, because it would have been a billion pings. Konks is continuing to macro up. He has, he does have burrow, which is good, because you can just burrow these roaches. And does he have Tunneling Claws? Let's see. This is what's actually fun to analyze about mirror matchups. He doesn't have Tunneling Claws. Get Tunneling Claws. You have Burrow. Alright? It's easy. It's good for harass. It's a strong play overall. And it's good if your opponent doesn't have detection. You can make them so valuable. And also, it's the only kind of micro I'm good at, so therefore, it's just like I think Protoss players should always get Blink, just because Blink Stalkers are the only units